officer team for the Surry County Republican Party, the Surry County Government Services Center, who allows us to use their facility, our timekeeper over there, who's going to make sure that we are on time and doing what we're supposed to be doing. So, the candidates, you are volunteering for hard jobs at the toughest era in our lifetimes. We are asking tough questions of you tonight because your duty is tough, and these questions represent what you're going to face in your job. So we appreciate very much that you stuck your neck out. Therefore, for the rest of us, want to thank the audience also for being with us this evening. There are over 16,000 registered Surry County Republicans, and our party fielded 21 local candidates. There are 8,000 registered Surry County Democrats, and that party only fielded one candidate. We need to get to know the candidates, obviously. But the chair has a duty to determine if any Democrats are running in the Republican primary, regardless of how long they've been registered with the Republicans. If a candidate believes in the Republican values, limited government, fiscal and personal responsibilities, individual rights, then tonight is going to be a very great experience for them and among friends. However, if we have a candidate that's running on the Republican ticket simply because they believe that that's the only way they can get elected to a local office, then the chair's duty is going to be to make life very unpleasant for that individual. That being said, as Marxists take over the Democratic Party, every conventional Democrat has the potential to become a great Republican. And many are legitimately transitioning to this party. So tonight's questions are focused on the issues. Our candidates can define themselves better and with answers that we can live with, more so than just having opinions. Now, time is going to be critical tonight. We're going to stick to a schedule. Our priority is asking questions to the contested partisan races for candidates in attendance. Candidates have 2 minutes for opening remarks. Then the candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each of a number of questions that we will provide with them. And they'll have 2 minutes for a closing statement at the end. Keep in mind that this is a forum, not a debate, so we're not going to have any back and forth rhetoric. We'll rotate the microphone with the candidates as far as who's going to answer first. You can see the timers located in the back and on each side of the auditorium. At expiration, you will see the timer and you'll hear a slight sound. The candidate can finish that sentence that they're on, and then they must hand the microphone on to the next contestant or candidate. If a candidate starts a sentence after the timer expires, then we're going to stop them. The audience can participate also by submitting questions to our vetting team. There are notepads and pens available at the back table. The corner table over there, excuse me. My left, your right, corner table over there. There are note cards and pens available if you would like to ask a question of our candidates. Each time the questions are asked by the audience, they will be taken to our vetting table at the front, and there they will be scrutinized for submission to the candidate. We'll try to get to everybody's question that they have for a candidate, but we may run out of time. We need to hear from the candidates, not the audience, obviously. So please keep your comments to yourself, and side conversations need to be moved outside. And we're going to have a break in about an hour or maybe a little less after the national candidate forums is complete. Some questions are from the party, and some will be from the audience. Questions from the party include fact-based components. The chair cannot take credit for the party questions, but the chair does take full responsibility for the questions. If you have an issue with any of the questions presented, You can feel free to talk to our chairman face-to-face with that later on this week when he returns. Also, these questions are biased towards Republicans, obviously. Value-based solutions to today's problems. So if you don't like a question, then perhaps that's a sign that you may be running on the wrong ticket. National Senate and House candidates would please come forward. I think we only have one, right? Michele Morrow, right?
Little bit, sir.
The way we're going to start out is we're going to give Michele 2 minutes for opening remarks, for her to introduce herself.
Okay.
And tell us why she is running.
Okay. I am Michele Morrow, and I am running for the United States Senate, but there's something that I do want to clear up. I'm actually not running for Tom Tillis' seat. I'm running for Jesse Helms' seat, because I think it's past time that we return this seat to a bold, outspoken Christian conservative who is going to push out the woke agenda from North Carolina and is going to retire Roy Cooper forever. And that is actually why I'm running. You know, we all ask ourselves, why are we here tonight? Why am I here tonight? It's because we have a primary in just a few weeks. And it's important for us to recognize the end goal of this primary, and that is to ensure that we have the absolute best candidate selected who can defeat the Democrat in November. And we, I believe, as North Carolina citizens, have a duty to the rest of our country to protect them from the dangerous, radical Roy Cooper. Let's remember what he has done to our state. He is the one who vetoed the Born Alive bill. Basically, a bill that stated if a child managed to survive a horrendous abortion, that we had to give them medical aid. And he said, no, leave the baby there to die. He's the one that locked down our hospitals and our nursing homes so that our loved ones were dying alone and afraid during COVID. He's the one that refuses to work with ICE so that we now have absolute rampant crime to the point that people are getting killed on subways in the middle of the day, and they've been arrested 20 and 30 times, and they're back out on the street. This is who Roy Cooper is. He despises God and everything that God stands for. And it's time for us to return our nation, to return God to the place, return God to the place where he belongs, and that is why I'm running. So we once again can be one nation under God that's indivisible with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. All right, we've got a set of some tough questions for you, Michele.
Okay.
Here's the first
Sitting.
one. I'm going to read it slowly, and if you need me to read the question, I'll be happy to, or try to explain what she's done. All of the elected candidates will go to Washington, D.C. with hopefully local vision. And then they meet up with the reality of the Beltway and are all forcibly changed by that machine. Our question for you this evening is, how will you stay connected to North Carolina roots and stand for our values when faced with the administrative state?
North Carolina is where I live, and DC will be where I work. North Carolina is my heart, and it is my home. And the way that we do this is what I've done for the last 11 years. I have traveled the state, and I have spoken to people and worked arm in arm to protect our freedoms, to protect election integrity, or to bring it back, to protect our medical freedom, and to provide education reform. The way that you do this is you recognize why you're there. Any elected official needs to recognize the decisions that you make, first and foremost, are to protect the safety of your constituents, and the next is to protect their God-given individual liberties. We should not be making decisions based on NGOs and special interest groups and lobbyists. And I promise to you that when I go and represent you, it is to be as a servant. I have lived my life as a nurse, as a missionary, as an educator, as a freedom fighter. I have served my community, and this is what this is about. I will make decisions based on what is right for you and for me and for our families, not based on getting reelected. That should be the last thing in the back of your mind. I am going to be an ambassador to the people of North Carolina. I respond to you, and that's what we need. We need someone who has been engaged, someone who has been responsive, somebody who has practical solutions to the everyday kitchen table issues that every single one of us face.
Okay, very good. All right, second question. NAFTA allowing China to join the World Trade Organization in the 1990s has damaged our country significantly. How do you think we prevent AI from repeating the same economic and societal destruction in our country over the next decade?
That's a great question. I'll deal with both. China, the first thing is, I promise to you that I will do everything within my power to get China out of North Carolina farmland forever. There is no foreign entity that should own our farmland. Second, AI is here and it's here to stay. So we have got to figure out, I am not a fan of regulations, but there is something that we need to regulate, that AI is not controlling us, right? It is not Big Brother in our lives, but also that it is not replacing our workers. And that's why it's going to be important that we are creating entities and education programs so that we can incorporate the AI, especially into the younger generation as they're coming up, that they are ready to take those jobs that are going to be here, not just here, but around the state. It's important that we recognize we are number one in business. We're even number one in workforce training, but we in North Carolina are 43rd in education in our country. There's something wrong with that. And I believe that the way that we overcome what's happening in China and their overreach into the United States is preparing the next generation to be the leaders, to take those innovative jobs and to be able to live and to raise the next generation of family wherever they live. Wouldn't you like for your children and grandchildren to be able to stay here in Surry County and to stop this smart city, urban sprawl that's been happening? I think we do that through education, and we do that through kicking China out and any other foreign entity. It needs to be America and Americans first.
Okay, very good. All right, question number 3. Andrew Jackson eliminated the second Federal Reserve banking system when debt crippled our country. What is your vision for holding the third Federal Reserve banking system accountable for burdening our children with almost $40 trillion in debt that would be impossible to be repaid?
Yeah, I think unfortunately we have got to go back to the gold standard, but what we first need to do when we're talking about this debt is we have got to have a deep accounting of where our money has been going. We have been funding things with our tax money that have nothing to do with Americans and with our families. And we saw that just a little tip of the iceberg when Elon Musk was up in DC and he was doing Doge. We need Doge in every single county, in every single state, in across the entire nation, not just federally, but locally and state as well. Because I believe that every American, we need to bring back the middle class. We need to bring back Main Street America. We need to bring back more money in people's pockets so that we have more money than we have month. It used to be that way in the United States. And I will tell you, we are incredibly wealthy when you figure the billions, the trillions of dollars that we are spending in sending to other nations who aren't even, they're our enemies, and we've been doing that. So I will be very intentional about getting to the bottom of where our money is spent and saying absolutely not one more dollar will be asked of federal tax money from American citizens until we give an exact accounting for where your money has gone for the last 20 years.
Okay, very good. Next question. Do you think the dollar must be replaced as the reserve currency, given the exponential creation of debt over the last 20 years? And if so, what should replace it?
Well, I think, are you asking about digital currency and if that's what we want to do to replace it?
Possibly, yes.
Okay.
What would be an alternative?
Right. As I said, I think the gold standard is we need to strengthen the dollar. I don't think that we need to be looking at, I think we need to look at all things that will make us strong. I'm hesitant I don't know enough about digital currency to say that, that's one direction that I want to go or the other. I do know this. I know that the United States has forever been the most generous country in the history of the world, but what we have done is we have put our people in the back. And when we're looking at just from an economic sense why we are suffering and why we are struggling, it is because the Democrat Party has just let in 22 million plus people, and it has absolutely overwhelmed every system that exists. You're looking at the court system, you're looking at your education system, your healthcare system, even food, when you're looking at supply and demand. The reason why our costs are so high is because we now have so many more people that have flooded into our country. We now have young people who are looking at never potentially being able to own a home. That is the American dream. There's something wrong when we consider development and progress to be that we're going to put up 1,000 rabbit hutches and we're going to bring people from other states in here to take the jobs because our children aren't prepared to take those jobs. It's time for us to start building starter homes so that kids that are in their 20s that are starting their families can actually own a home, and we can get back to when the dollar actually meant something and when we understood how to budget. But we have got, as I said before, we've got to put American families first. And we are in a crisis point. We are overcoming decades of bad policies that have put us in this position. So it's going to take a little bit of time. I know people are upset a lot about things haven't changed fast enough. They're complaining about that with President Trump. But I believe that what he is doing is the long-term solution.
Okay. All right, next question. Do you think current legislative authority is balanced between the judicial and executive branches of government as originally intended in the United States Constitution? And if not, what is your vision to regain the balance that favors a constitutional republic?
Well, obviously, the judicial branch doesn't have any position. They're not supposed to in making laws. So when you ask if I think that there is an imbalance there, I absolutely think that, because our judges are there to just uphold the law and to judge the law as it is written. I think one of the big problems we have in the judiciary, we need to have a lot of reform within, because we don't have true justice. What we're seeing now is an imbalance in justice. But I think we need to recognize that when we changed from the Constitution being the focus of our judicial, even our judicial training for lawyers and for judges, we turned it into, now you're looking at precedent. And there's a big difference between precedent and between actually looking at the law and determining the law. And I think it would be great if we could go back to that. I don't know if you guys knew that, but in Harvard, which was actually started as a seminary, which they've fallen very far from that, clearly. But their whole focus when we were training up lawyers is to absolutely know the Constitution and to have memorized it and to know it well. Now it's more, whatever case you can get past, that ends up being the determinant of what is right and wrong. And I think we need to go back to that, the Constitution and the law as it is written in its original form. When we talk about legislature and kind of that division, I want to get rid of the omnibus bills that we have. We have got to get back to 1 and 2 issue bills. I think it is abusive for us to be allowing our elected officials to be putting 400 pages of something and putting all their special interests and all their lobbyists and what they're going to put in their pockets, and they don't even have time to read it. They'll give it to them at 5 o'clock in the evening, and they need to vote on it tomorrow at 10 a.m. So I think those are 2 things that we can do to improve that.
All right, very good. Next question. How do we avoid getting pulled into a world war? And if you feel like we're already in one, how do we exit it?
I will say my son, I'm very proud, my son is a first lieutenant in the Army, and I thank you to anyone that has served in our armed forces. I believe that the best way that we have of staying out of World War III was electing President Trump in November of 2024, because we have already seen that he has managed to stop 8 major skirmishes throughout the world, and he's going to continue to promote peace through strength. I think what we just saw in Venezuela was incredibly impactful and powerful, because he understands the importance of using the technology that we have, the cybersecurity that we have, the IT that we have, to make these incredible strikes. And I don't think that we're maybe ever gonna have to have boots on the ground again, which, as a mother of a soldier, that makes me incredibly happy. But I will say, the way that we do that is by us becoming the light that we were supposed to be when we became the United States of America. The reason that we don't have peace is because I believe we have abdicated our role of being a God-fearing nation and being something that the rest of the world can look to. And when we have been so busy just handling the chaos that has ensued because of that, we have not been able to have those discussions that you need to have before it goes into violence. And I think that we need to, that is a responsibility for us as Republicans and as God-fearing patriots, I think, to bring that back to our nation, so that we have strong families and strong communities, so that our nation is being led by people who fear God and believe the Bible and are connected in upholding the Constitution.
Okay, very good. Next question. How will you ensure that only citizens determine our future during elections?
Well, that's a great question, because I've written so many letters to President Trump and to the governor. And, I think we should go back to one day of voting. I think it should be a national holiday. I think that we absolutely need IDs. We got to get rid of the machines. We should have no more mail-in ballots. We should only have absentee ballots, which we used to have. And absentee used to mean that you had to have 2 witnesses, and it had to be signed by a notary. And by the way, the notary should actually be a citizen, because in Wake County we have notaries that are not even citizens of the United States. I think the only machine quote that we should have is, I think that we should have a picture taking and a receipt generating machine, so that whenever anyone votes, they end up coming out and they don't have to say who all you voted for, but it says that you voted and it says what number you voted. So that when they are trying to give us reports of how many votes came out of a certain district, if you were the last person to be there to vote, you can say, I'm sorry, I have my receipt, and I was there at 7:30 on election night, and I was number 564, so there's no way that there were 700 votes coming from there. I think that it is an abomination that our law says that only citizens over the age of 18 can vote, and yet we aren't making anyone prove that they're citizens or that they're over the age of 18. And I say, let them whine, let them cry. Everybody knows when Christmas is and nobody misses it. So if you really want to be there for the election day, you'll make it, and you'll make your vote count.
Okay, very good. Okay, one last question from the party, and then we will get to some audience questions.
Okay.
Today's drug problems are very different from those of our youth. What national level efforts can break the chain of drug abuse affecting so many communities?
I really believe that the reason why we find ourselves in all of the situations that we have today is because the church has abdicated our role of taking care of the poor and the widow and the orphan and the immigrant. And when we gave that over to the government, we took out hope, we took out morality, we took out personal responsibility. I think why we need to get to the heart of the reason why people turn to drugs. And usually it is an escape mechanism. Usually there is pain, usually there is an inability to handle difficulties in their lives. And I think that we as the federal government could do a great service in empowering our churches to be the people that are helping people through these difficulties. I say that as well with abortion. There is no reason why I'm 100%, life begins at conception, and we want to eradicate abortion from our land. But what we're not going to eradicate is women getting pregnant, and it's unexpected. So we have got to be the answer to that when it does happen. I think it's a double-edged thing, and I think that with drugs, with the drug abuse problem as well. I think we need to infuse hope and purpose, and we need to remind our young people that they were created by God and that there is a purpose for their life, and we need to help them to find that purpose. And when people do find themselves in that situation, we need to come as a community and help them to recover. And I think that the best thing that we can do as a federal government is to empower state and local government that's closer to the people to be the answer to the questions. I don't think that we need to expand anything. We need to shrink the size of the federal government, and we need to make all of those services be closer to home, because when there is a personal touch to it, there is personal responsibility, and there's much more effectiveness.
Okay, very good. Okay, now we're gonna have a few questions from our audience here.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on the congressional stock trading ban? Is this something that you may agree upon with your opponent?
My opponent being Roy Cooper, does he agree? I haven't even seen that. Does he agree? I agree that we should not be able to be trading with organizations when we know what the laws are that we're going to be passing, and we know how it's going to be impacting the economy. Absolutely not. I think anyone that is going to Washington, D.C. with the intention of coming out with more money is going there for the wrong reasons. If you're going there as a civil servant, you understand that this is an act of service, and you're going there willing to actually sacrifice things rather than go and try to make more money for yourself. So I'm absolutely against any trading happening within our Congress.
Has there been a date set for a primary debate for the Republican candidates? Will you be willing to participate in the primary debates if they have them?
Absolutely. I would be happy to participate in any debates. I was told last night that somebody was trying to get one together, and so I would welcome that, definitely.
Okay.
But I don't have anything I don't know of anything yet.
All right. Last question. What can be done to stop the influx of Muslims to the United States?
Mm-hmm.
Islam is not a religion, but a political arm. The Islamic influx is concerning since they have vowed to overtake Christian nations and do not want to assimilate to the American way of life.
The United States is a Christian nation, and we need to take that back. And in my opinion, there should be an absolute ban from anyone coming in anymore from a Muslim country until we can get a grasp on what is happening here. We have a Muslim that is now the mayor of New York City, not only a Muslim, but also a Marxist. We are seeing what's happening in the entire country of Minneapolis, and we need to recognize this was a purposeful invasion that started with Barack Obama. And he purposely set different groups of people from the Islamic nations, and I think it was Gaddafi in the 80s who said, we will take over the world and we will never have to lift the sword, because they're doing it through immigration and they're doing it through having larger families than we are. And the only way that we are going to keep from becoming the United Kingdom is through saying no and stopping it and getting them out. Just yesterday, was it? Or the day before? Maybe it was yesterday. The lieutenant governor, the first Muslim lieutenant governor in Virginia, just took an oath of office on the Quran. Ladies and gentlemen, that should never happen ever again in the United States of America. If you cannot take an oath to the Bible on which our laws and our entire nation is founded, then you have no right to be in an elected position in our country.
Okay, that concludes the questions that we have. So, Michelle, you have 2 minutes left to sum it up and Tell us why we should vote
Speak
for
out
you.
loud.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. It really is an honor to be before you, and I will tell you, the reason why I believe that I am the best candidate for this position is because I have stood in the fire, I have stood arm in arm with you all, and I have the name recognition. Most people don't know that when I ran for superintendent of public instruction, I was not just going toe-to-toe with the left. I was going against the NEA, the National Educators Association. I was going against the establishment on both sides of the aisle who wanted the status quo. And do you know that I was outspent $400,000 to $8.3 million for a superintendent's race? I had CNN camping out outside of my home, and Roy Cooper went after me harder than anyone else in that race, all the way down the ballot. Why? Because he knows that I am going to speak truth to power, and my identity is in Jesus Christ. It is not in my title. It is not in what position I have. I am doing this because I truly believe that we have to return to God's principles. I know how dangerous Roy Cooper is, and we cannot allow him to go to DC and just imagine it, be the deciding vote in a Democratic majority Senate. Think about this, return to 2018. Remember the impeachment, remember the nonsense and the drama and all the theatrics? That's what we're going to do twofold. Roy Cooper fears me more than he fears anyone else on that ballot. Why? Because he knows I'm connected to the people of North Carolina, and he knows that I will call out his evil. And so I ask you for your vote, because this is not just about the Senate seat. This is also about winning North Carolina red. We need someone at the top of the ticket that will inspire the 4 million Trump supporters to come out in force and take back North Carolina. Thank you.
Very good.